This is Mastering Mathematics with your teacher, Karen Weston.
Good evening. Welcome to this, another in the series, Mastering Mathematics. I'm Karen Weston, and guess what? Elizabeth Thompson is here again because she is enjoying this. She has a lot to teach us in Antigua, Barbuda. And so, Elizabeth, I want you to tell the audience good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, and we are here again, and today we are introducing another concept in the topic for matrices, and we are going to tell you about the adjoint. Remember, we are taking you to a place where you will be able to use the concept involved in matrices to solve a simultaneous equation. We have shown you already where matrices comes into play in the real world. So now we are getting on with teaching you the concepts and the components that you will be using to use matrices in solving a simultaneous equation. Because we know right away we're going to be judged in this country by how many persons, what is the percentage of students passing these CXC exams. So this is really geared to an examination orientation syllabus. All right, that's the way in which we're doing the mathematics. Elizabeth, we're going to be introducing adjoint.
Yes.
In terms of the matrix, how would we be defining that? If we gave them a generalized form of a matrix that says A is equal to, and we have the elements A, B, C, D, what is the procedure?
Just like
the determinant.
determinant.
Yes.
Yes. We exchange those numbers along that line that we took first with the determinant.
All right. So listen carefully. Elizabeth is telling us that we would be linking our A to our D.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is to change positions.
Change places.
Okay, so they're changing places.
Yeah.
So where the A was, the D, so this is our new version of it. The D comes in that place and the A takes up the position of the D.
Yes.
Then, yes, what's happening with our B and our C?
Oh, we're going to change their direction.
We're going to change the direction. They're now looking in a positive direction.
Yes,
so we
will now go into
negative direction. Okay, so what we say, we leave them where they are.
Yes.
Yes, but then we change our signs. So you're going to see negative B, negative C.
Yes.
All right, so this, in terms of finding the adjoint, it will then be saying change the places for our A and our D's and leave our B's and C's where they are, but change the signs. And that is the adjoint. You hear me when I tell you people want to say mathematics is difficult? It's sitting, it's listening, it's seeing what the teacher is communicating to you, telling you what and how you go about forming whatever concept is required, and that is it. And you know what? Why we say mathematics is the simplest subject? Because once you would have learned this in the classroom, you don't have to go and do any more research. Isn't that true, Elizabeth?
That is very true.
What do they have to do? Practice, practice, practice. And you know,
look for the patterns in mathematics.
And
mathematics is made up of many, many patterns.
Look for the
and
patterns.
It helps you to do your work when you can find the pattern.
All right. And you are your greatest teacher.
It helps you to solve your problem.
Right.
Look for the pattern because it helps you to remember
All right.
what you're doing.
Okay. So that is all. And I have to ask my cameraman here, Jetta, was that difficult? Not at all. Jetta, you're the greatest mathematician in Antigua right now, right? You must be wondering, what on earth were for these people telling me talking about mathematics is difficult? Look at what we have done so far. So given the matrix A, which is equal to A, B, C, D, to find the adjoint, all we said we're going to be doing, and it's really 2 steps, you know. All you're doing, interchanging D and A and changing the signs for the other 2. All right? And we have a nice thing because, you know, we are a Christian country. So I tell my people to say, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And then we change the lives of those 2 people. Help you to remember. So you can come up with your own little rhyme or jangle too in terms of knowing the mathematics behind these things. So if I had to give you then, and if I had to give you a matrix A, let's write with the black so you can see. Okay, A, and it's equal to, the numbers are 4, 5, 8, and 7. 4, 5, 8, and 7. And you are asked to find the adjoint, and you're going to see it written as ADJ. ADJ of A. So we note the notations too. Okay? So if they ask you to find the adjoint of A, so we have 4 in the first position and 7 in the last place. What would we be doing, Elizabeth?
We'll be changing their position.
We'll be changing their positions. So when we are writing the adjoint, the 7 becomes the first number, the 4 becomes the last number. What would we be doing with our 5 and our 8?
Changing the signs or changing the direction.
We'll be changing the signs, so we write them back as they are, 5 and 8, but we know we're changing the sign, so it's a -5 and a -8. Now that is the answer. There is nothing else to be done with that particular thing. That is how you find the adjoint. Just change it, all right? First shall be last, the last shall be first, and then we change the lives of these 2 people. Now let us look and see what happens if we gave them negative numbers. Do you think they're going to have any trouble, Elizabeth? Let us look and see what's going to happen here. So we did the first one, and then we're going to look again because we're going to give them, and this time we're going to call it T. T is equal to, and so we have 3, then you have -7, you have -9, and you have 4. Okay? So again, Elizabeth, our first number is 3, and the last number is 4. And we want to find the adjoint T. Adjoint T. So what are we going to do with the 3 and the 4?
Change their position.
We're going to change their position. Because the 3 was the first number, it becomes the last number. And because 4 was the last number, it becomes the first number. All right? Now, we have -7 and we have -9. What are we going to do with those numbers?
Yeah, we're changing the direction. And what we do, put a bracket around that and put a negative sign outside.
Negative sign outside, so inside you have
Leave
negative.
them as they are.
Yes,
Put a bracket around it.
negative.
And then put a negative sign outside.
And we put the negative sign outside. Okay? So then, if a child now wants to make certain that we are that
you have to move those brackets now.
right now, notice what was done. You don't have to say, if you're not certain, you don't have to say you have to do everything in 2 steps, okay, in 1 step. Remember, we didn't just look and say, oh, negative times negative. It may not be in your psyche as yet because you're doing it for the first time. So notice what Elizabeth said. Bracket the numbers because this number is called -7. And we know we have to change the direction. So you make certain you do that by putting the negative sign. The -7 does not represent the change of the sign. That is the name of that number. So we still have to introduce a negative in front of our -7. And in order not to confuse the issue, we put -7 in a bracket, and then we can do the operation. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, so I write back my 4, and we're doing step by step. We see a negative times a negative, and what's that going to give me?
Positive.
A positive. So now I can take it out of the bracket and write 7. All right. And then we're coming down and we have negative, because we have a -9 and there's a negative in front. So we are going to be saying a negative times a negative.
And you write positive.
And that's going to give me a +9. And I write back my 3. And
So we
that's,
could have written that from right above and said change the sign.
yes, but we
Change the direction, but then we're showing how we change
the direction. Exactly. So when you would have grown in confidence, we are saying you don't have to put in this step here. But right away, if you're teaching it for the first time to the students, don't leave out any step. Don't take it for granted that they understand what you are saying. Write it down. But we want them to do what, Elizabeth? Take their time.
Take your time and do the practice.
Right, and take your time, take baby steps until we can leap.
Yeah.
All right? So teachers, don't be too quick. Just remind them, nudge them a little and show them. Because you know what? That is how you're creating a child-friendly environment. Right. So what do we have? Our students know how to find the determinant. So this is AD minus BC, and they also know how to get the adjoint. Now, Elizabeth, why did we, because we're getting to the inverse, Elizabeth, why did we introduce determinant and adjoint together?
Because we want to get to the
Inverse. Right. We are going to show you how to find the inverse of a matrix. And 2 of the properties involved are the adjoint of the matrix and the determinant. Teachers, you see how we build up things gradually. And notice we don't have anything else in this lesson but these 3 things, because eventually we want them to show the connection between them.
Yeah.
So what are we telling our teachers, Elizabeth, when they're in the classroom teaching?
Telling them to take their time
and
do one thing at a time.
Yes.
Go gradually.
Right. And take the children, the students along with you.
Yeah.
Don't just tell them, oh, it's a topic on the exam paper so that they're doing it. All right? We're telling them because we want them, when we are not there and the voice is not there, that they can say, I'm doing this because it's leading to so and so.
Yeah.
Again, we have a very good timekeeper here, which is Aisha. Oh, she's on the ball. If you want any time or anything, just call Aisha. And you know, my singing lark, my dear friend, I'm not going to call her that again, because now I know her name is Maggie. She's always around too. And don't ask about Sylvana Barnes. He's going to come to give us a poem to tell you why we're so interested in you becoming a good mathematician. Take a break and we'll be right back.
If you know the answer to a question is incorrect and you cannot find the mistake, start over on a clean piece of paper. Oftentimes when you try to correct a problem, you continually overlook the mistake. Starting over on a clean piece of paper will let you focus on the question, not on trying to find the error. Always read math problems completely before beginning any calculations. If you glance too quick at a problem, you may misunderstand what really needs to be done to solve the problem.
Right, so what did we give them so far? In terms of, we're marching on because we want them to be able to do the inverse, to find the inverse of a matrix. So we started out with the determinant. And what did we say we had to, how we found the determinant? It would be the first multiplied by the last, and then the second and the third terms and it's minus the second and the third terms. So if we're using a generalized form equation where we had A is equal to little a, b, c, d, it would have given us a formula that said AD minus BC. After that, we took them into the adjoint. And we said again, if we had this generalized form, if we wanted to find the adjoint, ADJA, it would have been equal to, what did we say they had to do?
Exchange positions.
We exchange positions. So the last person is the first person now. The first person now becomes the last person.
Yes,
and
then we change direction.
Then we change the direction of our other two guests. All right? So then we have those. Now, Elizabeth, why were we asking them about determinant and adjoint? Where are we marching to? We want them to find the inverse of a matrix, because it is this inverse property that we will be using to show you how you use matrices to solve a simultaneous equation. We know that there is another method, but we are not going to bore you at this time with it. It may be easy, but again, remember, because we talk about diagonalizing the matrix, we will be trying to use the identity matrix to solve the simultaneous equation. We're not going to do that because we have been looking and seeing how CXC is setting the examination question. The inverse method allows for a testing of a series and a wider aspect of the topic for matrices. So then it's a build-up, right? Normally they would ask them to find the determinant, find the adjoint, and find the inverse. And afterward you're going to see this word hence or otherwise solve a simultaneous equation. So we are teaching you this aspect of our matrix topic with the exam question in mind, because you know, once we have laid the foundation and the groundwork to show you how it is done, we're going to show you how the exam question is stated. All right, so we will be using determinant and adjoint because we now want to introduce you to the inverse of a matrix. So we say, we're leaving these things for the time being. We don't want the board to look too crowded, so we can erase our middle part here so that they can see where we are taking them. So if we're given the matrix A, we like to use A because let's call it P.
You don't have the black.
This is the black. If we have P and it's equal to generalized matrix A, B, C, D, all right, we can be asked to find the inverse of P. I don't like no P, so I don't care. Not using P, I'm using A. All right, A. Yes, okay. If we have to find A and it's equal to A, B, C, D, and then we're asked to find the inverse. Let's go. The inverse of A. Now, again, we show you the different formats they can use to represent inverse of A. We can have A and it's like to a -1, or we can have 1 over A. All right, so we can have 3 different representation when we want to find the inverse of A. So it can be the word A inverse of A. It can be A to the -1, or it can be 1 over A. All right, so don't say you don't know the representations for inverse of a matrix. And again, it has its formula. Elizabeth, we want to tell them what it is. If we are finding the inverse of a matrix, we're expected to write it as 1 over the determinant, that A, and it is times the adjoint. Okay, that is the formula. It is times the adjoint. So again, easy. We know the determinant, we know the adjoint. How do we find the inverse of the matrix? It is the formula that the inverse of a matrix is equal to 1 over the determinant times the adjoint. So that when you're going to expand it, it is 1 over AD, because we know the determinant is AD minus BC. Yes, we learned that. And it is times, and it would be the first number, last numbers here, change the lives of these two people, C. All right? So that is what our formula looks like. Okay? Jetta, you would tell me that this is easy, right? Somebody didn't teach you properly. Because now I'm sure you know there's nothing in this that's difficult. Because my little 7-year-old child is doing this. Okay? So, Elizabeth, what do we have to do as teachers in our classroom when we're teaching our students? Take our
time.
Right. Because once they would have learned the concept the first time, half the work is finished and it stays with them.
Very simple, you know, it's not as difficult.
Right.
As difficult as it looks.
Exactly. Okay? It is when we don't understand why we are writing certain things that you think the mathematics looks so difficult. But it is not. All right? Using a gradual process, we know how to find our determinant. We know how to find our adjoint. What is the relationship between the determinant and adjoint in relation to finding the inverse of the matrix? And we see right away that we have our formula that says the inverse of any matrix can be found by saying it's 1 over the determinant times the adjoint. All right, I want to challenge our students to say, is it in every situation we can find the inverse of any matrix? So we'll be talking, right, so we'll be talking about that next time. Now this week we have done quite a lot, because now you know what, let's see where we are so far. We know what a matrix is, we know about rows and columns, we know about the order of the matrix. We also know that, like everything else in mathematics, we must add, subtract, multiply, but the matrix has said no division, because division is the inverse of multiplication. All right, so after that, because we know, why are we teaching our students? So that they can use it in solving a simultaneous equation. We had to introduce two new terms for them, and that was determinant and adjoint. It was the adjoint that we actually changed the lives of the people with, okay? And the determinant was the one where we're saying just do the multiplication, AD, in terms of a cross, minus BC. All right? So let's repeat that again. Changing the lives of the two people was our adjoint. And then the determinant was just our multiplying the two things, AD minus our BC. Okay, and then we showed you that in terms of the inverse, it was just 1 over the determinant times the adjoint. And we are leaving you with that to soak up all that we have given you. And again, we know that directed numbers are not going to give us any problem again, because we have our slide rule, and we will be using that every time. And we're going to be putting the 0 under the number we're starting from, counting wherever we're going, left or right, looking above for the answer. What would you say to the students, Elizabeth?
I'd like them to keep on practicing, because only with practice do you do better at mathematics.
Right.
Practice is important in mathematics.
So we have given you as much as we think you can concentrate on for this week. Next time, we will take you into the examples and then follow up with what and how the questions are stated on the CXC's exam past paper. Remember, you can email us at mastermathsebu@gmail.com. Mastering Maths, MATHEBU@gmail.com. And then we can look on our website, not the website as yet, we're going to be putting on things on there for you to work, and then so you can have enough to practice with. But you can look at YouTube, and it's www.youtube.com/mastering mathematics. Until next time, continue to enjoy mastering mathematics, because we are having fun making certain that Antiguans and Barbudans will be able to work mathematics and not be afraid of it. Goodbye and good morning and good evening to the students in Barbuda. You're not forgotten.
And continue working hard.
Join us next time for another in the series, Mastering Mathematics, a production of the Education Broadcasting Unit in the Ministry of Education and ABS TV.